Okay, this morning I'm going to be speaking about fasting. This message is for each one of you here. I would say that not a one of you came here for some other reason that weren't intended to hear a message on fasting. And I guess I would further say that it's really for the whole church. But they will have to get the message, like maybe through a YouTube video or something like that. But fasting in the Bible is generally mentioned in connection with times of extensive special prayer. It also appears to have been a part of typical life in the Bible. And I've got several scriptures here. In Mark 2:18 through 20, it says, "Now John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting, and people came and said to him, 'Why do John's disciples and the disciples of the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?' Jesus answered, 'How can the guests of the bridegroom fast while he is with them? They cannot, so long as they have him with them. But the time will come when the bridegroom will be taken from them, and on that day they will fast.'" And so just a quick point there that they were fasting. Fasting was a common part of life. Jesus said we would be fasting. And also there are times to fast and times to not fast. So a couple different takeaways from that verse. In Matthew 6:16 through 18 says, "When you fast, do not look somber as the hypocrites do, for they disfigure their faces to show others they are fasting. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that it will not be obvious to others that you are fasting, but only to your Father who is unseen, and your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." So just another one where he wasn't speaking to the point of, at some point you might have this special time of fasting. He was just like when you were fasting, just it's a part of regular life, nothing special, but also something that would be there. Another verse is Acts chapter 13, verses 2 and 3. "While they were worshiping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, 'Set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them.' And then after fasting and praying, they laid their hands on them and sent them off." So verse 2 says, "While they were worshiping the Lord and fasting." So fasting was a part of their worship. It was not something. My takeaway from this is that they might have been gathered for a regular church service, and God spoke, and they were during this time of regular church service. They were fasting. Maybe it was a special service, but I think given other scriptures, it could very well have been just a regular part of life. But then also this major decision, they included fasting and prayer with it, and I think that we would normally do that. That's not uncommon for the church. I think it's more almost the regular weekly, monthly inclusion of fasting in our lives that is probably not there. Certainly it's been true for me that it's not been there. So a note I wrote down from last night's talk is that fasting may be a component of the faith and action part that God has for you. Part of this faith in action is that you're stretching out your hands and healing, and it could also be that fasting is a component of that overall faith in action. Our fasting is really counter to our current culture because we are encouraged to eat every couple hours if you're hungry, to satisfy every little craving. If there's a little bit of twinge of pain, go ahead and have pain reliever medicine. If there's any discomfort, get your pillows or whatnot. So to fast is really counterculture, but I don't think it's counter God culture because we're not supposed to be necessarily part of the world, and this is just one example of how we are not to be part of the world. Now, we could cover more time looking at what the Bible says about fasting, but I only have like 15 minutes, and so I'm gonna zoom through a bunch of stuff here because I want to try to encourage all of you to include fasting in your life. So I've hit just a couple little teasers on what the Bible says about fasting. Now I'm also going to hit some teasers on some of the physical health benefits of fasting. All of this just trying to encourage you to fast, because I want each one of you, most likely, to fast. I mean, there might be someone here who doesn't qualify. If you're pregnant, then you probably should not fast, but I don't think anyone's here pregnant. And I'm not a medical professional, so I'm talking about fasting. I'm largely speaking about this particular book. It's called The Complete Guide to Fasting. And it's called Healing Your Body Through Intermittent, Alternate Day, and Extended Fasting. And so this book, the large focus of it is weight loss and treatment of type 2 diabetes. And he mentions other things, but like it's encouraging people to fast, but it's like he spends just like a page on all these other topics and spends the whole rest of the book talking about weight loss and type 2 diabetes and how it can be treated. If those are your interests, then that might be a good book for you, but if you have other interests in the area of fasting, then some other resource would perhaps be more appropriate if you wanted to do more research. So I'm going to quickly go over some of the fasting myths, give you some big claims for the benefits of fasting. I'll hit 7 advantages of fasting as compared to other diet methods, and then I'll have some cautions and some suggestions. So what is fasting? So when I define fasting, it is, in this book in particular, mostly a water fast, but they also allowed you to drink your coffee, your tea, maybe a little bit of broth. Go ahead and take your vitamins and your medicines. In fact, when I was fasting here recently, I would drink a mug of broth and then have my multivitamins and whatnot, so I didn't have an upset stomach with taking vitamins on an empty stomach, which bothers me. Doesn't bother all people. The fasting is different from starvation. Starvation is involuntary. You have no choice. You're in a prisoner of war and you are starving. Fasting is your choice, under your control at all times. If you decide to stop fasting, you can stop fasting at any time. It's under your control. If you don't feel good, well then eat. This is not a legalistic thing where you have to do it for a certain amount of time. In fact, there is no prescribed amount of time. You can fast for a meal, you can fast for a day, a week, a month. It's all fasting. There's not a magic number that you have to, or even a magic way of doing it. So some myths. One myth is that fasting puts you into starvation mode. And actually the interesting truth, according to this book, is that just the opposite is true. Dieting puts you into starvation mode. When you are reducing your intake of food, your body starts to adapt, and it starts to slow down, and you get to where you feel like you're starving yourself, you're just barely eating anything, and you're not losing any weight. So your body has adapted. It's gotten into starvation mode. Whereas fasting is just the opposite. When you fast, if you stop eating food, then your body can't adapt to that. There's no adapting to it. So your body has to switch over to burning the fat that's stored up. So that is a big difference. So another myth is that people might say, well, fasting burns muscle, and the truth is just the opposite as well. Studies will show that if you are dieting and lose weight and you're fasting and lose weight, that you end up on the fasting with the same amount of weight loss having retained more muscle. It's like 25% more lean body mass that you would have retained than from the same amount of weight loss by dieting. Another myth is that fasting results in overeating. And actually, I did an extended 6-day fast last week, and typically what happens is that when you stop fasting, you don't feel like eating a whole lot. Actually, you have just a little bit, and you're sort of satisfied. So in general, if you are fasting, and you don't go crazy after you're done fasting, and which actually I did. I went through like 3 or 4 days of like, I deserve this, and I regained all the weight that I had lost, which I didn't need to lose any weight anyway, so I was fine. But you need to, after you're done fasting, you need to eat on a, you need to watch what you're eating if your goal is weight loss. Another myth is that fasting deprives your body of nutrients, and for short fasts of less than 24 hours, your body has the nutrients to carry on. It is good to have the multivitamins or other minerals as supplements. In fact, Allison, we discovered a secret for fasting for her is that she benefits from taking magnesium, that it kept her from having leg cramps while fasting. Some other benefits. Fasting helps you lose weight without slowing your metabolism down, which I already mentioned. Fasting is a valuable tool for lowering blood sugar and type 2 diabetes. Fasting improves your mental clarity and concentration, increases energy, improves fat burning, improves heart health. Now I'm getting to some big claims here. Prevents Alzheimer's disease, extends life, reverses the aging process, decreases inflammation, and so if you find those hard to believe, then I encourage you to do some research. Why don't you get some books, and check this out. Look at some studies. So I'm trying to tease you all and say to consider fasting and look into it for yourself and think about this for yourself. Some advantages of fasting compared to, say, other diet methods is, one, it's free. You don't need to buy special diet food. It's relatively simple. You don't need to cook special stuff. You don't need to go to the store and get special foods that are a little complicated, a little out of the ordinary. It's convenient. You just don't eat. You have extra time suddenly in the day that you gain back 90 minutes that you might have missed, or you can work through lunch, get an extra hour in or something. You can also mix it up however you want. You can choose to have your Thanksgiving meal and then go back to your fasting routine. You can choose to have the birthday cake and then go back to your fasting routine. It's not messed up by life's events. It's also powerful. The world record for fasting was 382 days. There was a fellow who was, I guess, 400-some pounds, and he fasted for 382 days, and when he got down to his goal weight of 170 or something like that, then he stopped. And I think actually going back and checking on him some years later, he had maybe gained back like 9 pounds or something like that, but was basically maintaining his weight. And I think he did that with just like taking a daily multivitamin the whole time. So it's flexible. You can change from week to week as you desire. It works with any diet. You can be a vegan and fast. You can be a vegetarian and fast. You can be a meat eater and fast. You can follow the standard American SAD diet and fast. It works with any diet plan. So some comments on how to fast. Now, in the past, I've occasionally fasted by skipping a meal or two, but I had never done a long fast. So as I mentioned, I just did I went 6.5 days this last week, and I had coffee, a mug of vegetable broth in the morning. I had my vitamins, and that was also my lunch and dinner, just a mug of vegetable broth. I also had a little bit of salt water so I didn't throw off my electrolytes too much. And I was fine all week. Actually, what I think finally did me in was stress. I was at work last Saturday and just was in a fog, couldn't concentrate, and finally decided it's time for me to break my fast. And so I went and had something to eat and felt better and was able to get back to doing some work. Actually, Allison was fasting, and she went 12 days here just recently, I think with really no trouble at all. So I say that just to say that you can probably do this too, that it's not somebody in some faraway city who has fasted, that everybody can do this. I happen to have lost 7.5 pounds over the 6.5 days I was fasting. I was losing about 1 pound a day on average, and then that was accelerating toward the last couple of days as 1.5 pounds a day that I was losing. Of course, then I mentioned that I blew it all, and I ate, and it's like I deserve this, and so I gained it all back. But yeah, you don't have to do that yourself if you choose not to. People who should not fast: children younger than 18, those who are severely malnourished or underweight, pregnant and breastfeeding women. The following people should probably get the advice of a healthcare professional before fasting. If you have gout, you're taking medications, you have type 1 or type 2 diabetes, you have gastroesophageal reflux disease, and then I'm just going to throw in a general catch-all that if you have some other potential medical complication that you're aware of, you may want to check it out before you fast. Fasting is for almost everyone. Unless you have one of these conditions, everyone would benefit both spiritually and physically from fasting. So I'm speaking to everyone in this room most likely. There's probably not a person here that would not benefit from fasting. And how long? Just depends upon your goals. It could be a day, it could be a meal, it could be multiple days. I think if your goal is weight loss, it actually benefits you probably to have longer fasts, because it takes you like 24 to 48 hours to burn through the sugar stores, and it's actually glycogen stores in your liver, before you get into burning the fat. And so a longer fast would be of benefit if weight loss is your goal. So in conclusion, the reason I want to share about fasting is it seems like a potential answer to prayer. I have been praying for a number of people that, and when I stumbled into this, it struck me that this was a potential answer to some of the prayers I've been praying for people. And so the reason I wanted to ask if I could share about fasting was because it's like I had this answer in my hand, and if I don't say anything, I would be potentially not caring for people if I did not say something about it. And so that was kind of my motivation. And so I wish more people were here to hear this, but I guess I appreciate you all being here.
Andrew, as you were speaking, I was thinking of churches we've attended, and I think Pastor Tim has called fast here a time or two. And there has to be a spiritual connection. I was thinking about religions that fast as a discipline. And there is an evil spirit that comes on them as they are separated unto their false god. And I thought, Father, there's a connection. We are a spirit, and we live in a